Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series finale of Supernatural. A great series finale, a beautiful series finale. It's kind of what I thought it might be, just because everything got resolved in previous episode. So I figured and I made a comparison of I felt like it was probably going to end a little bit like Arrow. And it kind of does in that same regard. It has a very, in my opinion, spoilers if you've never seen it, but it kind of has a bit of a lost ending as well. I know a lot of people, there's different reasons why people didn't like the ending of Lost. But I think for me, once again, I like the ending of Lost because I thought it was just a beautiful send-off and just a beautiful ending, regardless tangents and all that. But I thought it was beautiful, just starting it off, because it is the thing of, we're free, and now it's just kind of the rest of our lives. But immediately, there is that part of my brain that was is this going to, be, the real happy ending, or is it going to be a sad thing to it? Because I figured as much, because, what their lives are, that's always a risk. That's always been a risk about their line of work. It's we fight, we hunt things, we save people, but there's always a possibility of death. But, them waking up at the beginning and just showing you the differences between Dean not really cleaning up his room and fixing his bed, but Sam being the neat freak he is, cooking, the dog, I love that. That's kind of Dean's, their dog, but it's still very quiet in the place, because it's Jack, no Mary, no Cass, so but at least they have each other, and it's we have our lives, so it's okay, nothing, in the moment they were oh, there's nothing over the wire, so I was oh, no cases, I was okay, so they're just gonna, be living there, I figured, but then Dean's yeah, there's something, and it's a pie eating contest or pie fest or whatever, and he's I'm gonna get some pie, he's are you crying? He's I'm not crying, you're crying, just I'm gonna go get you some pie, he's I'm gonna get me some damn pie. And he got all those slices, and obviously for Sam, it's no Jack or no Cass makes it feel weird, but it's if we don't live our lives, Dean's if we don't live our lives, those sacrifices, kind of be in vain. So to them, we owe it to them just to live our lives. Sam giving him the pie in the face and everything. So, but then obviously they get drawn into a case, which immediately when that case was happening, because the people with masks and stuff, I was because immediately my thought was oh, this must be them watching a movie or something. It's going to seem like it's going to be a case. But then it turns out it actually is a case. But then I was thinking when it was all said and done, I was oh, it's not actually vampires. It's just twisted human beings. I thought that's what the case is. Oh, this actually doesn't have anything necessarily supernatural about it. Turns out it super did. At the end of the day, it ended up being vampires, because obviously going back to their dad's journal, and it's oh yeah, we've, I think even that, I'm sure they've referenced using their dad's journal in more recent years and stuff like that, but it's one of those little details that it's so integrated as being part of the story that you don't really think about it anymore. I'm sure there have been more recent examples of them pulling out their dad's journal or referencing that they use their dad's journal, but just seeing them pull it out just one last time, it's right, because it feels like it's forever, but like I said, I don't remember, because it's just one of those things. So yeah, they relied on but a lot of times you see them looking up stuff on the internet, but they also reference getting stuff from their dad's journal, all the hunts and everything supernatural he's ever come across has always been the foundation to what gets them started on. But then other times they just go by their own research and stuff like that. But still, it's okay, these things, it's they're the worst kind of things. They're mimes. It's and they're no vampires, vampire mimes. Son of a bitch, and it's so now they got, because obviously the monsters, they killed the dad, drained the blood. The mom survived, but they cut off her tongue. It's kind of part of their MO, and they kidnapped kids, and so. And they captured one vamp, and it's okay, we can either do this slow or we can do it fast. See, you really want to string us along. That little knife my brother's used, he's actually going to shift that over to a spoon. So, and obviously, they found a nest and everything, and they got to work. They were able to save the kids, and I did like that he ran. What was her? I want to say her name was Jenny. Was it? I could be completely mistaken. I don't remember that, but obviously by the look that they flashed back to, I'm oh, because at the moment they did it, I was oh, this is full-blown nostalgia. I was I thought the rest of maybe the rest of the episode is going to be kind of a trip down memory lane in a similar vein, but it seemed the way they look, we saw a very fresh-faced Sam and Dean. I was ooh, that had to be early days. That had to be some season 1 stuff, but it's hey, it's you, good to see you. And I love that whole thing of him being yeah, it's hey, we tried to kill each other in the past. He's it's running into someone from high school that you didn't want to see. So it's like, oh, you the head honcho now? She's like, no, but I particularly asked for this particular. She wanted to be the one to take out Sam and Dean, but Sam lops her head off. I was like, oh, that's taken care of. And then do just fight and stuff like that. Because I had that sinking feeling the entire time. I'm like, it's going to be, and it's like, just because this is going to be, it's not, this ain't probably their first case after the Jack situ, after everything last episode. Obviously, we saw them driving off at the end of last episode, but, you know, who knows how much time has actually passed. It probably hasn't been, might have been a couple days, maybe, you know, who knows. So they might have had other cases before now. But when it was all said and done, though, like, the moment that, like, whatever it was, rebar or whatever was sticking out of that wall, I was like, oh, God. I was like, please tell me that's for the monster and not Dean. And then the moment Dean was going forward, I was like, oh, no. And then he gets stabbed on it. And I was like, oh, shit. Because this is one of those moments you'd have, like, Cass come and heal you and stuff like that. But obviously, Cass isn't around anymore. And so, but I wonder, even if Cass was, would it really be a thing of, like, no, we got to let their lives play out the way it's supposed to, like, you know. And obviously for Sam, it's like, no, I'll get him. He's like, no, just stay with me. Because like, by the time Sam's done getting help or whatever, or trying to do whatever he can, it's like Dean would have less and less time. So it's like, just stay with me. Let me say what I need to say, you know. And it's like, you know, that beautiful heart to heart. That's all, that relationship, that bond. That's always been the foundation of this series. Has been their relationship, and you know. I'm never gonna front. I'm starting to weep. I was like, no, come on, because it's like we've been down this road before. They've sadly been down this road too many times before, but it doesn't make it any better. It doesn't make it any easier losing one another. And it's like, for Dean, it's like, don't bring me back. It's like, we both know what happens. Like, shit always goes wrong when we try to bring each other back. So like, don't. And it's like, he ends up bringing up. He's like, you remember when I came to pick you up from school? He's like. Because for him, he was like, I was scared. He's like, I stood outside your school for like, stood outside your dorm or whatever for like hours, because he didn't know how Sam was going to react. He was like, I didn't know if you were going to tell me to get lost or get dead. Like, I didn't know what was going to, if I came up to you asking you for the help with the case and everything. Because obviously, you know, once again, kind of going full circle, being like, I didn't know knowing what to, you know. It's Dean not knowing what to expect from Sam's response, and it's like, you know, to think about everything that they've been on, like this wild and crazy ride that, like, you know, and you know, time and time again they've had this chance, you know, they've had more chances than other people. So I think for Dean it is that thing of like, I'm okay, like now that everything's okay, like Chuck's not around, like I'm okay with, you know, being able to finally rest, because he's like, you have always been, he's like, I've always looked up to you, Sam. You've always been smarter. You are strong. You know, you will be okay. And he's like, I don't want to, like, obviously for Sam, it's like, I don't want to be okay without you, but it's like, you will be. Because he's like, I don't want to do this alone. And it's like, you'll have to. Like, the fact of the matter is, you know, he believes in Sam. He knows Sam can do this, but he's just like, tell me it's okay. And Sam's like, it's okay, you can rest now, Dean. And you know, because Dean's just been trudging along, like obviously one battle after another, like, you know, after everything, it's like, you know, he deserves to be able to, you know, finally rest too. And just like, I don't know, dying, you know, basically, you know, with his brother. It's a beautiful yet sad moment. And you know, and obviously you see Sam, you know, soon after, you know, burning Dean's body, and obviously, you know, it's just that heartbreaking moment. Like, you knew it was coming, but like, you didn't know I didn't know if they would necessarily throw it at you like that. So like, it's what you like I said before, partly expect, partly didn't. But Sam, we see him just kind of like trying to, you know, going on fixing breakfast. He just like, that pep in his step obviously he had before is obviously gone, but it's still the thing of like carrying on. And he you know, because he's looking at the table, because like the bunker's even more quiet than before. There's no mom, there's no Jack, there's no Cass, and now there's no Dean. The place is so damn quiet. And then you see him kind of look at the table. You see him you know, going into Dean's room to sit, and the dog whimpering, you know, missing him. And he's like, you know, me too. And as obviously one of Dean's phones gets a call. A guy calls up, he's a cop from somewhere, and he's like, Donna gave me your number, missing hearts. Sounds like a werewolf situation. So it's like, yeah, and obviously it's very emotional too, because it's like, it's our last time in the show seeing the bunker, because I figured as much, because the moment Sam leaves, he cuts off the lights. So, and then the next scene has us like seeing things from Dean's perspective. Dean's in heaven and everything, and he runs into Bobby, because I saw Jim Beaver's name at the beginning, and I was like, oh, are we going to get like a I was wondering if it was going to be like like they run into, under other hunters. So I thought this was like Apocalypse World Bobby, but it's like, no, it's their Bobby. And it's like, wait, what memory is this? And he's like, oh, this ain't a memory, you idiot. It's like, before Jack left, he changed everything. Rather than, heaven isn't just about reliving your memories anymore. It's about everyone being together. So like Jack tore down the walls between different people's heavens. So now like everyone can kind of coexist. Like it seems like you can still relive your oldies, but you can also just live and enjoy being connected. I mean, that's the whole point, being with the people you care about, not just like memories of them, but being legitimately with them. It's like, hey, Rufus and Aretha are down there. I mean, granted, I was hoping that she'd have better taste. Then there's also your mom and dad got a place up here, so that's beautiful, knowing obviously they're together too and everything. So he can pop in to see his mom and dad whenever he wants to. Even the beer, and being like, oh, this is the first beer me and my dad ever had together. And it's like, oh, is it good? It's like, nah, it's terrible. But it obviously that nostalgia hitting him, and it's just like, it's almost perfect because Sam's not there, but obviously Bobby's like, time works differently up here. He'll be along soon enough. But also it's like, I love hearing that message of like, it wasn't just Jack that made this happen, like changed everything. It was also Cass. And then you kind of smile because you're like, Cass got out of, because Jack made some changes before, he left. Like obviously before he got a little hands off, he ended up making it so that, obviously, like, Cass got... I mean, he's God now, so I guess he gets to make the rules, so they kind of had no choice but to comply, so Jack pulled him out. So I'm sure, like, seeing Jack again we don't get to see the scene, but at least you go, like, okay, it's beautiful to think, like, he got to, see Jack probably before Jack disappeared. So it makes you wonder, where is Cass? Like, what's management like in heaven now? Maybe he left... maybe he left Cass in charge, or maybe him and Cass are out there traveling together, like, father and son type of situation. Maybe that's what that is. Maybe, whatever the case may be, Cass, I think it's free of the empty. So that's a bonus, there's other situations I want to know about, because obviously they even set up stuff in this final season. Once again, there's that episode a couple episodes back where that demon, that crossroad demon they met with, like obviously an episode ends with him setting up something, but we're never going to see I figured there would be no conclusion to that. That's just kind of like a future storyline of like, maybe Sam ended up dealing with that at some point in time, or maybe not, but it's just kind of one of those, that story exists somewhere in this world. There's a lot of stories that you're kind of like, they exist somewhere in the world. Like for me, Rowena, I wish I could have seen Rowena one more time. I wish I could have seen Ruth one more time, because I adore her so much as Rowena did. I would have loved to have been able to see her one more time. But it's like, you got your one time this season. Don't be selfish, you got your one final time seeing her running hell, So, but that's still kind of neat, because obviously she always had a thing for Sam. So it makes you wonder, did they ever cross paths? But obviously, like, we get cut to like Sam's life. He's got a son named Dean. We don't get to see the person because they're way in the background. I think they did, maybe because they couldn't get the actress in time for the episode. But I think it's supposed. Eileen. I think it has to be Eileen. It has to be. It'd be kind of heartbreaking if it wasn't Eileen, but I like to believe it's Eileen. I think that's kind of what they're kind of alluding to, because it was someone with like brownish hair. So, but showing that Sam was able to live his life. I love that it cuts back and forth between like montages of Sam's life and also like Dean in the Impala. He's like, I missed you, girl, and he plays the song and he's like, I love this song. I'm like, of course you got to go out on this song. It's like, this song is so synonymous with this series now that I'm like, obviously the song existed before this series, I'm sure. It's probably like a older song. I've never actually looked into it. Like, I'm pretty sure the song probably predates the show. I don't think it was a song made specifically for the show, but it's like, you probably had to pay up, like, especially if it's not an original song, it's like you probably had to pay up the wazoo for like the licensing rights for those. That whatever the case may be. Like, I'm getting off, but it's just a nice cut back and forth. Like, Sam spending time with his kid, playing ball, like probably all the normal stuff. But obviously, it's like you're part of that world, so eventually he has to bring his son into the hunting world. And so, obviously, we see when his son's older, when we see Dean older, he has a tattoo on his arm, like, the tattoo to make it so you don't get possessed. So there's that, but it's just like the cut back and forth between Dean driving and Sam living his life. We even see at one point, like, an older Sam pulls out the Impala. Oh, he pulls the cloth off it. So I'm like, when's the last time you were in the Impala? Like, he probably found other means to drive around, because he's like, it was probably too hard, because it was probably too much of a reminder of Dean that he probably stopped driving and found other means of driving. Maybe not, but it looked like it was a while, considering it was covered up and everything. Or maybe it just when he got older, he stopped driving it. It's also, when you actually look at it, like, that's what I was also talking about too with the bunker. Like, it doesn't seem like he went back. Like, obviously, once he had a family, obviously, like, staying in a bunker, too many memories, but also that's no place to raise a family. So I'm sure that it makes you wonder at what point in time did he actually move out of bunker. It's probably soon after, because it's like, once again, that place is too empty. Probably, like, from time to time, he joined up with all the other hunters they've met and known over the course of things. Yeah, and then, Sam reaches the end of his life, and his son, Dean, telling him, it's okay, Dad, you can go, let go, and, having them finally reunited. Like, Sam, Dean's looking out at the, the view, and he's like, hey, there's Sammy, and they hug, and I start choking up. I was like, I knew it was coming to this, but it's still so beautiful. It's still, it's still nice. And like I said, this Afterlife thing heavily reminds me of, like, Lost ending. I mean, hell, even to a certain extent, Arrow's ending, to a certain extent. Obviously, if you've never seen Arrow's ending, I won't reference it too much, but it kind of reminds me of that. So I was like, just seeing them be able to be together, and it's not like Sam got there too soon. It's like Sam lived a life, It's like, I'm sure, like, it was still not easy going on without Dean, but he was able to live a life, and I'm sure he can tell Dean about all his life, like, hey, I went through this, I went through that, but all the people we've ever lost, the people we've ever loved and lost, like Mom and Dad, Bobby, are all here, and we get to just be together. It's like, this afterlife can be whatever we want it to be, and knowing that, hey, Jack's out there, Cass is out there doing their things, like, whatever that may be, so it's a beautiful thing. And it does make you wonder, will Jack ever is he out there making other worlds, and could that be him and Cass, like, traveling to other worlds and stuff like that, Maybe on another world, Jack isn't as hands-on with this Earth, but maybe he's on another Earth, like, working with Cass to, like, hunt, I don't know, I'm curious, like, what, I mean, the sky's the limit beyond, like, where things could go from here, but, it was a very nice, send-off, beautiful send-off in, storytelling wise, and also for these characters, because you almost kind of wondered, like, how you figured the show would kind of, it doesn't seem like one of those shows that would have necessarily a sad ending, which this is. It's a bittersweet ending, but it's a beautiful ending nonetheless, and I didn't like that too. Like, they did switch between, like, the original song and then, like, a rendition of it, like a cover of it. Like, I like that they switched between the two. I thought that was kind of neat too. I mean, what else is there to say? It's wild to think, and even the thanks, at the very end, to, for the show being what it is, it's like, this show has been able to live, they're thanking the fans for the love and support, and it's wild to think this is the end. It still doesn't feel real, because it's like, man, like, this has been a big chunk of my life for so long, because I've talked about it, like, I've watched this show since it first aired back in 2005, when this show used to actually come on 2 days a week, because it used to come on, I think, Thursdays and Sundays, because Sundays would be where they replay episodes. Like, they do that sometimes, like, in between new episodes and stuff like that, but, like, an entire day, dedicated to replaying, like, I think, because, like, that's when, like, new Supernatural was, like, the new hot shit at the time, so it's kind of crazy to think about that. I've talked about it too, like, I followed most of this story except for around season 10 and 11, because I've talked about it before, like, I got, like, I was partway into season 10 and then I fell behind and I didn't catch up to the show. It wasn't until a little before season 12 started that I was like, you know what, I'm gonna catch up with Supernatural, and I did. And I'm super glad that I didn't let this be one of those shows that sadly kind of fall to the wayside where you're like, oh man, I need to circle back to it, but I haven't. And I'm always grateful that I finally made it. I did catch up because I love this show, and I'm glad I've been able to enjoy these last few seasons to kind of see this journey and this story and the road that they carried on through, and so it's all I can say is thank you, Supernatural. Thank you to the cast and crew for this crazy 15 seasons, these 15 years along this road, and I'm glad to have been a part of it, most of the way through, and so, like always with these situations, I wish the cast and crew the best in their future endeavors, and beyond that, there's really nothing else to say. Thanks for the great time. I'm going to miss this show, but I'm glad to have it go out on such a beautiful note. Like I said, there's so many what ifs that you're just like, oh, but what about this? What about that? And this and that. But it's just kind of like, let that stay in the ether, because I don't need answers to everything. The story is resolved where it's just like this. The story ended. It began the way it ended with two brothers, So I think that's enough on its own right. So yeah, I'm a stop talking, here. So till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good